probably my most requested video is just my personal setup for the bench. It's certainly not the only way to do it, but it's the way I've found for myself is most successful and a relatively simple way to teach it. So if you already have a good bench setup, there's no reason to alter yours, but if you're kind of in no man's land on the bench and you're inconsistent with your form and you just want somewhere to start and tweak from, I certainly think it's a reasonable place to start. One major caveat is that it is a heels up bench and thus it's not legal in the USAPL. Although I might even mimic this setup and then just slide my heels down. I find it's a good way for people to learn like what tightness really feels like and what a better arch feels like. So I don't think it's completely, the value is completely lost even if you're a heels down bencher. I think a lot of the same principles apply. You just have to alter the setup a little bit. So just kind of going through the checklist before I show it. First thing I do is I set my hands. Then I go back behind where I'm going on the bench, and then I'm going to make sure my feet are pointed this way. The main reason for that is a lot of your leg drive is actually coming from your quads. I think people mistakenly think that the leg drive is the glutes. The glutes are going to shoot straight up, and what we're looking for is momentum back that way to help drive the bar back towards over our shoulders and towards the spotter. Right, I bench with a sink, which means there's going to be a substantial amount of contact between the bar and my chest, which is going to allow me to transfer the force from extending my legs into the bar to help me drive it back. So kind of reiterating, I'm going to set my hands, I'm going to swing behind, I'm going to make sure my feet are oriented this way, because the more they're oriented that way, the more I can direct the force backwards, whereas if I turn my feet out excessively, the leg drive tends to just go up into space and not really help me move the bar. The next thing I'm going to do is flex my glutes. I think that's a good way to prevent the leg drive from, for your arch from being in your lumbar spine. I think that if you flex your glutes, it kind of reinforces your lumbar to some degree and forces your arch from your thoracic. So I'm going to flex my glutes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze my back. So scaps are going back and down really hard, kind of getting a feel for that before I actually do it for the unrack. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swing forward without moving my feet. I'm going to set up on my traps. I'm going to drive my hands into the bar, setting the bar nice and low in my hands, and then I'm going to take the bar out. And during this, I'm never going to fully set my ass down. It's going to be hovering on the bench. So obviously it's still going to be legal, but rather than think about having, okay, I got 3 points of contact here on my feet, my butt, and my traps, I'm going to split the majority of my weight between on my feet and up on my traps. So kind of going to walk through that as I actually do it. So get the bench here, right? First thing I'm going to do, just because I find that when people get set and then set their hands later, they tend to lose a little bit of the tightness as they're lining them up. So that's the first thing I do. Whatever your reference points are is fine. Grip width is not something I try to standardize with the people I coach, like what Sebastian Oreb does. So then I'm going to swing under to the point where the bar is roughly above my nipple, give or take. And then I'm going to put my feet back here to a reasonable degree. I'm going to orient my toes so that they're going parallel with the bench. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flex my glutes. I'm going to protect my low back. Then I'm going to feel my upper back. I'm going to squeeze them back and down, and that should draw your touch point up if you're doing it hard enough. I can't emphasize enough that 90% of bench technical proficiency is just getting better and better at controlling your scaps and keeping your back tight. So from here, I've got my feet forward, I've got my hands set, pretend they're on the bar, I've got my glutes flexed, I've got my back isometrically squeezed. I'm going to take the bar, I'm going to pick myself up, then I'm going to set my traps down, and I'm not going to set my ass fully down on the bench. It's just going to be hovering in contact with it. And then I'm going to press into the bar, pointing my fingers up to the ceiling so the bar settles low in my hand. I'm going to take it out, still keeping that weight low in my hand with a pullover type motion. I'm going to bring it down. As I bring it down, I'm keeping my scaps back and down and drawing my touch point up to the bar, and I'm going to press. That is my setup.